Welcome back. In health news in Sierra Leone, 5 new Ebola cases have been confirmed in the capital city of Freetown. In response, the government has imposed a quarantine in a fishing district of the city. Meanwhile, President Obama says that he'll bring back nearly all the troops sent to West Africa to fight against the Ebola outbreak by April 30th. A total of 1,300 U.S. troops have been deployed to that region. Well, part of telling the story about Ebola is documenting just how the disease has affected communities in the first place. Here to talk with us more on U.S. involvement in the fight against Ebola is filmmaker Matthew Kahn, who directed the feature documentary Our Tall Man, Minute Bowl and the War of Visions. First of all, talk to me about your work in Sudan with genocide victims and your documentary. Talk to me about that.
Well, Minute Bowl is a very famous NBA player. He was the second African NBA player, and I filmed him building a school in his village. But it wasn't a normal school. It was meant to promote reconciliation between Christians and Muslims on the ground in an area where there's a lot of conflict. And we're in completion level for that film now. Pretty soon we'll probably have a Kickstarter, and I've been to Sudan 9 times. And I got really involved on all levels, from the ground, where you have a very small NGO working, to the UN, where I was filming before independence and filming the diplomats doing their activities.
So what did you see? What did you witness with the genocide there, and what were you able to uncover?
It's no surprise that everybody in Sudan is slightly traumatized by their experience, because they've all had friends and they've all had enemies who were once friends. And to make something like that into a peaceful settlement is very difficult. And now with the new civil war, it's doubly true, because even the leadership of the government and the rebels, who were once on the same side, are now separated. So a lot of people's hopes and dreams are shattered, and in a kind of strange, ambiguous state. Even though there's a new peace treaty, it could be broken next week and no one knows what's going to happen.
A lot of countries, of course, suffering with internal conflicts and civil conflicts there, but also there is a major health crisis in Africa that is perhaps beginning to wane now, the Ebola crisis. And you spoke with a lot of other folks who were filmmakers and cameramen who were sort of witnessing what was happening there. The U.S. troops are beginning to pull out. Talk to me about your experiences talking to those folks about what they were documenting.
Well, their experience is like a horror movie. It's the fear of death, because they're taken from their normal environment and placed into somewhere where anything you can touch can kill you. And as Americans, we were watching this from far away, and their work brought that into our living room. So we got to experience what they experienced to some extent.
What do you think is the power of film in terms of telling that story? Because clearly we did see the devastation, families just ripped apart, bodies lying in the street. It's terrible.
Right, and it should be, horror-inducing. Ebola's been around since 1976, and every outbreak has been a little bit larger, but usually contained and small, and seems like it's far away. And suddenly, with our international culture and quick flights, we were facing the idea that this could be happening in Texas.
So are you trying to tell us perhaps then, as a filmmaker, an artist, that the power of documenting these kinds of events, whether it be genocide, whether it be Ebola, is critical to our international understanding of crises that deserve our attention?
Of course. Film is bigger than language in a way, than spoken language or written words. So there are things that you can share with people using film that you could never do just in normal translations of writing.
And some of those examples would be?
Well, a good example is the 60 Minutes piece that many, many people saw, which featured, for example, the Dr. Stephen Hatch, who had personal relationships with African doctors before the Ebola crisis broke out. But as an infectious disease physician, he knew that when this crisis broke out, he wanted to volunteer. And going to the area after his friends had died really was able, he wrote about that in the Times, but his story was shown on 60 Minutes. So those are kind of very interesting ways of translating this to a large American population that needs to know that not every intervention needs to be a military one. It can be a humanitarian intervention like we just saw, which I think was very successful. We don't know really if the Ebola outbreak is truly waning, or if this is like a lull before another storm. But what we've done is train a whole host of African medical practitioners to deal with the next outbreak when it happens.
So now we're more prepared. Filmmaker Matthew Kahn, thank you so much for joining us with these insights on Arise News Weekend.
Thank you.
When we come back, a new profit investment in America's future. You're watching Arise News Weekend.